So we have entered the days of the goddess, and I thought I'll do a little live session as a prayer. It's the middle of the night, and when the dreaming and the waking, the aware and the unconscious are all meeting. So, what I'm going to do, I'll show you this book a little bit. It's on the story of the goddess. Those of you who got this book and have read the story, it's based on the Devi Bhagwatam, and it's weaved with a lot of strands of the upanishadic literature, of the tantric literature, and a lot of ecological science and wisdom. And overall, it's a tribute to the goddess and nature. This is Lalita Ambika. So she is the goddess which is there in the tantric text. She is red in color, and next to her are Vak Devis. Vak Devis are goddesses of speech. How the pranic energy uh, is projected in the ether, so it can take shapes of words and vowels. And on the other side, you have other guardian deities. Shiva in tantric literature is white, so the background of this cover, that is Shiva. So, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to show some bit of this book, and then that folder has some of the original artworks, not the big ones, the small ones, which feature in this book. So let's and of course I draw on all of them as much as I can. So it's Purnam. Author, author Sheet, Harshit, you're so loved. Lots of blessings back to you. Yes, this book, even for me, was a very introspective journey. So I too was on a quest to understand some of my own cognitive biases. So I feel you. Some of these artworks are quite big. So this book has visuals which range from big paintings to little drawings. And this is one long story. As you see, this it just has a beginning and two appetizer stories, which I have put just to give the philosophy of the goddess, and then it goes into the actual story of the goddess, which is the story being the Devi Bhagwatam or the Devi Mahatmyan. But it incorporates Sahasranam, Sundarilahari, the Tantra canon, and the Upanishadic literature, and many other literary sources. But mostly is also a way to voice ecological wisdom and the wisdom of Mother Earth, which is why these stories are important, and they bridge us with the logic and the things beyond it, and the conscious and the sub and the collective conscious, and these stories sort of act as bridges. This is a 6 feet big painting. And all these images have these stories. I'm not going to read it. If you're interested, I hope that you get to the book. I hope the book discovers you. I want to say that. This is the garland of skulls. I've tried to unvilify the skull and the bones kind of idea. People find skull and bones are associated with horror, but they're not. They are symbol of universality and how sun gives equal light to everything. This is again like a 6 feet big painting. Uh, so I'm gonna flip through this book pretty quickly because it's not so much about the book, but just that I wanted to do this as a little prayer. So the story begins here, the vision of the Devi, and then and now you have the entire story. So this is a dense book to read compared to the first book, Namaha, which is shorter stories, and this is one long story. So that's how it is. This is Mahishasur. So I've taken two stories, which is Mahishasur Mardani and Shumbhanishum, and Raktabij, which is the larger chunk of the story of the goddess in the Puranic from the Puranic definition. And I've tried to incorporate a lot of other philosophical aspects into it. So I'm gonna quickly show you some of these images here in the book, the writing. Maybe we'll pick something at random and read it. Let's see. Is this maybe better? Yeah. Yes, lots of love to all of you joining from different places. I again, I thought I'll do a midnight prayer because now we have entered the days of the goddess, days of introspection, cleansing, service, mental reviews, life reviews. Durga is the protector of the fort, the mind being the landscape in which the truth is the fort, and the one who guards the truth being Durga. And what is that truth? The truth is that we are all interconnected and we all depend on each other. And if this balance is disrupted, then everyone suffers because of that. And hence we evoke Durga and we call for her help to rewire this wisdom when we forget it. And these are all the different gods. This is again a 6 feet big painting. So you can see all these gods are here. In the story, the gods created the Devi, which is not really the way it is. It's like electricity. The switch, because of which the bulb comes on, is not what creates electricity. Electricity exists despite the bulb and the switch. So they're invoking the goddess. The goddess exists already there eternally. She's been there for eons and for many manvantras. And the gods, now when they're in this disarray, they're being expelled out of heavens. They've lost their grandeur. They've lost their position. And often in such moments, you start to contemplate and introspect seriously about where did you make a mistake and where did you go wrong. And they want the goddess to come and help them and show them the way. And you see, this is, if anyone's interested in reading this, the whole story of the goddess, it's there in this book. This is probably one of the most challenging books I endeavored. Oh, how lovely. I'm watching the book you're talking. Thank you. Yes, you guys can type a few questions and I'm happy to pick some and answer. And yes, indeed, I wrote it and I also drew it. I get that question a lot. If when people look at the book, they the first question is that, hey, did you write it? Because I think we don't associate writing a lot with artists, although we associate writing with artists often, or writers who draw at least. But writing is not that common with artists. So I actually think I'm not mentally so much of an artist. I love it like music, and I've always done it for the love of it. But all my art, at least the foundation of it is stories. So yes, I've tried my best to write it as best as I could. And this is my tribute to the literature of the goddess. And why I love it is because it's a contemplation on nature and ecology and our own being. And the whole idea of spirituality is that how we are connected between these three, four different planes of nature, us, our biome, this planet itself, and the cosmos it's enveloped by. So, so I'm going to quickly show you some more because this is a 150, almost 150 um, page long book, and it also has it has this centerfold. So it's a long centerfold like this. This is a 15 feet big painting actually. This is Rudrani. This is the Trinity, the three gods, but as goddesses. This is Rudrani, this is Vaishnavi, and this is Brahmani, and all their lokas, the realm they are from. So every little, all the other goddesses surround them. Okay. Well, uh, and now we're towards the second story of the book, and this is where the Devi returns and she comes back. It's Shumb Nishumb, Brahma coming down. They all are asking for boons. They're all wanting to be immortal. And isn't it strange that after all these years of great penance and spiritual contemplation, you still cannot get rid of the greed and the desire of living forever or wanting the kingdoms of gods? So it's kind of counterintuitive. Uh, and that's also the message of a lot of these stories, that to do yoga or to go into tapasya is to get rid of your cognitive biases. And when you emerge out of such a penance, you probably just at least don't have a desire of something which is unrealistic like immortality. You are accepting life in the way it is, that we there will be birth, there'll be youth, there'll be decay, and there'll be death, and that equation is accepted at a spiritual level, and then you rejoice every second you get on this place. So this is the book for those who are asking again and again, what is the name of the book? This is the book. Purnam, Stories and Wisdom of the Feminine Divine. Uh, and okay, now I'm gonna quickly just go quickly towards the end of the book, because we can spend a lot of time just even reading some passages from here, and maybe I'll pick something random and read. There are all these various different Devis. I'll read the passage from here. Varahi Devi came on an elevated seat of Preta, ghosts, who only listened to her. She held the staff which changed shapes and sang hymns to her. Narasimhi, half lion and half woman, and the merger of realities, started piercing through the illusionary web. Yami came mounted on a buffalo with a staff in her hand, controlling the noose which represented time. Kaumari Devi came on a peacock with spear and strength of many suns, and led the way to confront the Asuras. Kuverni came with gold to absorb radiation issuing from the weapons. Varuni brought along healing like an ocean, bustling with both mysteries and power. So there's a lot of descriptions of what different goddesses are part of the retelling. So here the Devi is saying, which is this page, not even the body owns the soul, neither the soul claims the body. Man or woman cannot be owned by each other. They choose to be together in this ocean of life. It's man's arrogance that he projects such claims. He owns no animal, plants, or beings of earth, let alone his own fate. So there are a lot of samvad, a lot of dialogues happening between the goddess and the different asuras. And each time there is a confrontation, it is trying to build up on the core message of that particular event and story. And most of these ancient stories, the subtext of it is topics like kama, artha, moksha, dharma, morality, meaning, semiotics, existential philosophies. And the idea is to bring that to the surface with the device of the dialogue. So that is what the script is trying to sort of hopefully accomplish. Okay, I'm checking the question box now. We are towards the end of the story. So this is one of the most famous Rakshasa. I don't want to call them demons because it's not a good or a bad kind of a story. These are individuals who, because of their own greed, and they're highly accomplished people, possibly like politicians of today, or people who are remarkably intellectual but sort of have strayed from their path of morality. And the Devi is here to vanquish them and assail them, so the unblocking can happen to restore balance. One wishes this could happen in real life, though. I guess at an individual level, one can use these teachings in one's own life. I think that's a good place to begin, though. This is the end of the book now. And this is the last story. It's called Remained. So that's that. That's the That is the book. A little dive and a glide through the pages. Purnam. And it is got the entire story of Devi, the goddess, in it. So, if the book discovers you, I hope you get to read this during these 9 days when we are trying to invoke the goddess within us. And now I'm going to show you something which is related to the book, which is the original artworks of the book. And this story is based on the Puranic literature. That's the foundation of it. And then on top of that, there is tantra literature, which is the essence of this retelling. And tantra literature is different because it's talking about alignment between the layers of nature, human beings, the cosmos, within ourselves, the micro realities, macro realities, and a lot of upanishadic literature, which is the philosophical literature, and then many other worldly things, the scientific literature. So it's a fragrance made from, it's a perfume made from all those fragrances. Okay, so now these are like the original drawings. So you see, this is these are like the small drawings in this. So these are very big paintings. It's like 6 feet big painting, but this and you have this here, and this is the original of it. It's done in oils. So these are all original artworks, you see. Sorry, I have put some plastic on top. How much time did it took to complete the book, Purnam? Many mental years. I think you prepare to go on these kind of expeditions all your life, but physical time about 3 years, which is still long. And because the writing of the book itself is quite challenging, and I'm not doing it as a project, or my agenda is not to create a creative project out of it, or a book, or a film. I want to truly understand the story so I can apply it in my own life, or my experience of this planet can become richer, my experience of this existence can become richer. So that was my intent. How do you bring the drawings into print? You just make the drawing and you scan them in, you design a book and you print them. That's pretty simple. That's the simpler part. I think some of this glare takes away from looking at the art. Maybe I'll try to do a proper video, which I can probably put on YouTube, where I can show this artwork with some and talk about it alongside, and hopefully it won't have all this polythene on it. The core of the book is the in-depth knowledge of the Devi Puran. That's the foundation. A lot of people think that Fevi Bhagwatam, that is about the literature on the goddess, or that is the go-to literature. That is the story of what we have come to know as the Mahishasur Mardani, and the story of the goddess. But within that story, if you have to decode the wisdom of the goddess, you have to go into tantric literature, you have to go into other philosophical literature, Sankhya, Yoga, Vaisheshika, you have to go into Upanishadic literature. Also, modern age philosophers, for instance, Dharma is morality. So Genealogy of Morality by Nietzsche is a great book to read. Or there's so many other aspects of psychology, science, psychiatry, cognitive biases, which give you another lens to look at these stories and decode the messages and then bring that into the retelling. So otherwise, it's quite surface level. You can find the story of the goddess on Wikipedia. But the thing is that if you like an apple, it depends to what degree you have your curiosity with it. That do you want to know the tree it comes from? Do you know why it tastes the way it tastes? So all these are different levels of investigation. So when you tell someone about that fruit or an apple in this case, you can give all these layers. That this is where it makes it more interesting for you to go into that investigation. So for me, it was that. These are all watercolors. Was the writing of this book some sort of collaboration or teamwork? Yes, I collaborated with the elephants and animals and trees. Lots of nature. Nature is my collaborator on it. I would go discuss some of the snippets I had, which I was writing with the trees in the park. I take a walk, or wherever I feel I want to discuss the story a little bit. I would always look for nature as my collaborator. So, but no, in the human way, I'm the only sole person. With solitude, I wrote it. It took me 3 years. How do you improve art skill? That is a different conversation altogether, but just draw. Just draw every day. This time, sir, please come to Kullu Dashera. I will try my best. If the place calls me, I will. I definitely will show up. So all these are the original hand paint, and I wanted to do traditional hand painted artworks. I think that hand painted works have this rawness to them, very earthy. At least the way I go about it, there is a certain finesse to it, but at the same time, everything is very raw, very earth like, and I thought that was another way of honoring the goddess. The knowledge you gained with reading is appreciable. If it would be great if you could pin down some books. This is a book. I mean, I did make a book. You can you can read the things I know, which I can write with words on it. But the real message of the stories, these wisdom stories, is to bring it in your life. Can you do one little act of seva? Can you be of use to someone? Can you can you make your own existential experience richer? Can you engage with life more deeply? Can you deal with certain turbulent affairs of your life in a collected manner or in an introspective manner, even if your display is all over the place, but the ability to come back to some sort of let me think about this. So that's the real message, to enhance the way we live life through these stories. Thank you. Your drawings are so beautiful and serene. It's all earth grace. So do you face some kind of conflicts of thought and leanings working on such vibrant subjects related to scriptures and religion? That's a great question. And the religion, culture are complex subjects. So oftentimes we don't understand that we have simplified it by just making an artwork on it, but it's broader than just making an artwork on it. The subjects of culture, religion, how the theological aspect of religion, the essence of religion versus the historical application of religion, for good or bad, and what it has done around. These are very complex matters, because on one side, religion on one hand will go into wisdom, but on the other hand, it will go into how it has shaped the world, by various ways of war and empire, and how it was instrumentalized as theological ideologies, how it was instrumentalized to gain as a control mechanism. But on the other side, it also can be talked from a perspective of wisdom. So, great question. And I think when we do stuff on mythology, religion, culture, for me, it has always been for a personal understanding. I think my work is a byproduct of that journey. My work is not my primary intention, but a lot of times you want to do a film on it, and I think that becomes the primary goal. And we don't really probably care how we are taking that old story, the wisdom of that story, and applying that in our own life. So if I have to say it in a simple way, is this, that the oldest stories were not made to entertain, they were made to educate. The difference is, when you tell a story from an educational perspective, you want the person listening to raise themselves to that level, to the level of the story. When you're telling it to entertain people, you are going to their level. So you dilute the story. And these are two different modalities at which stories operate. It's okay for a story to be entertaining, but when the story is educational, a person may have to do some legwork to become a little used to its conceptual space. It is like classical music. In the beginning, you may not like it, but if you give it enough time, it may start to grow on you. Any tips for artists, authors? Just write every day, draw every day, enjoy what you do. Just don't have this pressure of that it should become something. Let the tree grow. Give mango tree the 20 years it takes before mangoes sprout on it. Just enjoy it. This is one of my favorite pieces, Kali and the Cats. It'll be there in the next book. We couldn't put it in Purnam, but it'll be there in Sarvam. Mythology, I feel, is like the more you read, you get to know different perspectives of the same story with links from other stories. Yes, mythic structures are very interesting. I think they are the meta stories of a civilizations. So there's a term called archetypes, which is, let's say, the hero. Every story will have a hero, or a villain. Every story will have a villain, or a wizard, or a healer, or a magician. These are the common characters which you find in many mythologies, and it's called, the term for that is archetype. But archetypes comes from an ancient word called arcane, which means magic, which means the magic of dreaming, that somehow in the new age psychological literature, even some like Carl Jung has documented a lot of psychoanalytical aspects of the dreaming self, where he talks about these common entities and archetypical aspects of mythic nature, mythic symbolism. So it goes deeper than just being stories. And one could do an entire session just on diving deep into mythic structures and what can we really learn from them, and how do they shape our perception, how a lot of that science has been used to create either control mechanisms or spiritual ideas. How do you visualize the stories? Well, because there is a story, you have enough. It should come in. It should appear in your mind. Like, how do you write a love letter? It happens on its own because of the intensity you feel because you are infatuated by someone, right? So the intensity of infatuation sort of transcends your writing ability, and next thing you know, you have written a love letter where perhaps grammar is all over the place, but you have written a letter, and it does showcase based on how obsessive or how courteous the flavor of the sentiment is in which you are expressing your love. So yeah, these are all different pictures of the story. unfinished things. This is interesting because a lot of this is unfinished and just sketches which I did, like preparatory sketches. Uh, I thought I can, at some point, if there is a possibility, I would love to make a animated film on this. There's so much work on it already. Sir, I have a huge fan of your art. I have deep love for Indian mythology. It's like diving into endless ocean of stories, each character, hidden tales that take you to another world. Yes, absolutely. And I think mythology, that is why it's fascinating, because why we are fascinated to mythology is because I think it combines the rational world we live and the dreaming world we have. It combines both things. Hello, sir. Do you take interns? No interns needed. Just pick up that whatever you want to learn, don't seek permissions, just do it. And when you are in the act of practicing and you are a little bit in it, you know you're consistently practicing, then you can always reach out to people with specific questions that, hey, I'm struggling with this, or I would like to know how to grapple with this particular problem. And there are a lot of good people, and I think uh, that in itself becomes a way of interning with several amazing people. Just have a good practice to passion. Your passions should be complemented with equal intensity of practice. Next time, make a book for Himachal Pradesh gods. All these are Shiv and Himachal Pradesh. The god of the mountain is here. The goddess is the goddess of the mountains. Adrija is the guardian of the mountains. Uma, Parvati. All the questions on art, just practice. That's it. Simple answer. There's no there is no there is no formula, there's no shortcut. And I think, yes, so all of this is sort of 3-year long effort of writing and drawing this epic book. I think sometimes even I don't believe that it all actually came to fruition, and it's really God's grace and Goddess's will that it got summoned and got completed, and it's actually out there. It's unbelievable in many ways, you know. This is the book. Thank you for joining in this prayer for the goddess as we enter the 9 days and meditate on her. It's a time to introspect, which we often don't make time for in our fast-paced lives. And introspection does not mean thinking seriously about serious things. It may just mean simply looking at just what is around you, the sky, the little flower, the little things someone is doing out of love for you, and having a sense of gratitude for it. So on that note, I send you guys a lot of love and thank you for being in this prayer.